Hi there, I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com, and this is my Smart American Accent training. Welcome to our weekly live question and answer class. Each week I take your questions regarding American English pronunciation and American accent, so you can write those at any time in the chat and I'll answer them for you. At the start of class today, I want to talk about a recent request. Someone was asking about these words. So we'll look at the words chip and cheap and ship and sheep. So obviously there are two patterns here. We have, we'll look at the difference between the letters CH and the ch sound versus the letters SH and the sh sound. We'll also look at the difference between the I vowel, like in chip and ship, and the E vowel, like in cheap and sheep. So I do have videos just talking about the ch and sh, talking about the I and E, and we talk about all of the sounds of English and these pairs in particular in our Sounds of English course on speechmodification.com. So those are some other resources for you. But let's give you a little bit of an overview and some help with these words. Oftentimes, depending on your native language, particularly Spanish speakers, but certainly some other languages as well, they have a challenge hearing and making the difference between ch and sh. So this is one place where the symbols, the IPA symbols or International Phonetic Alphabet that you'll see in the dictionary can be helpful. Looking at the ch sound, that symbol for ch is two sounds together or two letters together. It is one sound, ch. It's called an affricate sound. And the way we make it is by putting our tongue up like we would for a t sound. So first off, Spanish speakers, you may not make the same kind of t as English speakers do. In Spanish, the t is made a little bit more with the tongue on the teeth. In English, we say our t sound with just the tip of our tongue against the alveolar ridge, so behind the teeth on the roof of the mouth. So first, you may want to just try saying t, t, making sure you have a strong burst of air, that you're using your tip of the tongue there. And then we don't actually say a t when we're saying the ch sound. That's just where our tongue starts. Then our tongue drops down to the sh spot, like in the word ship. So the symbol ch represents what we do when we have our tongue lifted and then we drop it down. What's important to know about these words that have the ch sound is that that sound can't continue. Once I make it, it bursts out of my mouth and it's finished. Chip, cheap, I don't want it to be long at all. I just have the ch. I have to push it out with some force. Versus when I say the sh sound that the letters SH make, and you see the symbols here, you can hear how sh, I can hold that sound as long as I want. So when I'm saying the sh sound, my tongue is down, it's behind my teeth, shh, at least the front of my tongue, shh. My mouth isn't very open, and that sound, that air can flow and continue. So when I'm saying ship, sheep, I can exaggerate and hold the sound. And usually what will happen is you may make a sound that's a little bit in between these two. So if you're trying to say chip, you might say ship, chip. It might not burst out enough, or it might come up sounding like ship. Vice versa, when you're trying to say ship, if you don't hold your sh, if you're not making just that one sound, no movement, ship, it could end up sounding like chip, where the ch sound is sneaking in there. So hopefully that helps you make a difference between chip and ship, cheap and sheep for the ch versus the sh parts. If you're working on that, you may also want to work on words like wish, that has the sh, wish sound continue, versus which sound stops abruptly. Especially the CH at the end can give people some challenges. So you can check out my videos for that, and also our Sounds of English course will help you with those types of contrasts. Then secondly, we have our I versus E contrast, and this is a pattern that is problematic for almost every non-native speaker, simply because most other languages will have this E vowel, the tense vowel, and they may not have the I vowel, and it can be very hard to hear these small differences. So I have a lot of videos helping you with vowels and with these sounds. First of all, notice that the E vowel is often spelled with EE or EA, and the I vowel is usually spelled with letter I. So that's one thing to think about, is that when you see letter I in your native language, it may say the E sound. But in English, letter I, most of the time, if it doesn't say I, it's going to say I and not an E. So getting used to words like it, did, didn't, that they all have that I sound, that you're aiming for that lax sound, is the first thing. So you can use a word like it's a chip, did the chip, did it chip, did it ship, it's the ship, in the ship. Using a lot of those I sounds together with these words can help you. Because if the difference between did and cheap, I and E there might be easier to hear than the difference between chip and cheap. And then for E, you could use a word like eat cheap, see the sheep. So another E word to help you make that tense difference. When it comes to the difference between these two vowels, this one is what's called lax. The I is lax and the E is tense. The other difference is that the E is high and front. It's as high as possible, and it's the same as the E in your native language. The I, my tongue is a little bit lower and more relaxed. So many of my videos, as I mentioned, cover that difference. That's something that doing a lot of listening practice can help. Becoming aware of which words have which sounds can help. And then also just practicing with some of these minimal pairs, or not focusing on minimal pairs and focusing on matching, like did the ship, was it in the ship, using a lot of I words together versus a lot of E words together when it comes to these words. Okay, so a lot going on with those 4 words. Hopefully that helps clear up some of the challenges you may have with differentiating those words, hearing those differences, and making those sounds. As I mentioned earlier, do check out our additional videos specifically on those sounds to get some more specifics and help. And then our Sounds of English course is also going to be a great resource for you there. All right, welcome everyone. It's nice to see so many of you here today. Do feel free to put your questions in the chat at any time. Or if you're watching this later as a replay, you can put your questions in the comments and I'll return to those later on, giving you answers. We have a question about the vowel in ear, and does it sound like the vowel in hit or heat? So our I vowel, like we were just talking about with chip and ship, is the one that's in hit. The E vowel in heat. And then the question was, what about the word ear? So in the dictionary, some dictionaries are going to mark that with the I vowel, and some are going to mark it with E. In my opinion, ear is a little bit more tense, but it's its own diphthong. So regardless of how the dictionary marks it as ear or ear, the sound ear is its own sound. So there's 2 letters here, but it's just gliding from one position to another. When we're talking about the I and the E, if we're looking at the vowel quadrangle, as I mentioned before, we're talking about ship and sheep, E is higher and more tense, and I is a little more lax. For ear, we're ending in this tight position, ear, and it's the front of the tongue just kind of drops as it moves. So I may already be in the position, ear, and then the front of my tongue is just lifting. I'd say it probably happens a little bit somewhere between those 2 vowels. These are just 2 different ways of marking it. But if I were trying to say the vowel I, and E, neither of those would be correct. It's ear, where to my ear, it sounds more like it's starting with an E. This is just a way of marking it. So getting used to the dictionary that you use, how they mark it. It's really neither of these sounds. I'm not making 2 distinct sounds. I'm not saying E, or I, It's one sound, And it's trying to represent what happens as I glide from a starting position that's not just ear, ear. It's just a small movement of the tongue there. So I hope that helps you. It's definitely a little bit confusing. I do have a video about all of the R diphthongs that can help you listen to hearing them, learn the symbols for them, and get more used to ear, air, ire, etc., how to pronounce them. Check that out in our playlist for the R, our R playlist, or also you can get more details and help in our Sounds of English course for ear and the other R diphthongs. Thank you. That's a great question. Okay, we have a question about how to pronounce vigorous. Vigorous. So we have first syllable stress in vigorous. We have the I vowel. The letter G says the G sound, vigor. Even though we have an OR here, we don't say vigor, we say vigor. It's an monophthong. And then OUS just says another schwa sound, vigorous. So I would write it like vigorous. Vigorous. Yeah, thank you. That's a good word. And then we have a request for the word octopus. Octopus. So even though we have octo, the prefix with an O there, that's the stress is on the first syllable. So again, our first letter O, often when letter O is stressed, it says the ah vowel. We have ok. This letter O is going to be a schwa, sound like a. Octopus, pus. Another schwa at the end. So I would write it like octopus. I would even maybe put no vowel here for this last syllable, octopus, octopus. There is a little bit of a schwa sound in there, but we're moving very quickly from the p to this octopus. Or you could write it like octopus. Yeah, thank you. That's a good request. Next question. We had a question about the correct pronunciation of messages. Okay, so I'm assuming you're asking about the word messages. So messages. So this is a good example of messages. In the second and third syllables, these vowels are going to be reduced vowels. So our clear vowel is in the word mess. So it is just like the word mess. He made a mess. That has the red tent vowel, like as in I read my messages. And then you're probably going to see a schwa and another schwa or an vowel for that last one. You can think of them both as being sounds, messages, or both sound, messages. Doesn't matter too much as long as those vowels are reduced. I would probably say it messages with the vowel here and the vowel here. And then this letter G, as you saw, is a j sound, which we spell with J at the beginnings of words like job or jump. Messages. Did I have any messages? Yeah, okay, thank you. Thanks for your messages. Let's see what else we have. Lots of good questions. We have a question about, do the words sound the same when spoken fast? Adam, at him, add them. Okay, good. So first, Adam. We have the Adam. Probably basically no vowel there, a syllabic M, Adam. The name, so there's Adam. If we're saying at him, so I was looking at him, we can do this the same, so I can either say I was looking at him, where I would have at with a two ways. One is I would use a stop T at him if I'm saying the H sound, at him. I was looking at him, which is correct. People use that, but they also sometimes will drop this H and then that T links to the I sound, and then it does sound more like Adam. I was looking at him. So same thing. I was looking at him, or I was looking at him. So they can be the same. I was looking at them. And then if I'm saying I need to add him, again, I can say it with the H. I need to add him, which I might do because I'm stressing more on add here. Or I need to add him. I need to add him to the list. Adam. In that case, again, it can be Adam, or it might be Adam with a little more I vowel there than in Adam. And then finally, add them. I need to add them. Can be a the sound and an M. I need to add them. Full version, or I need to add them. Then we can do the same thing. I need to add them, where the TH drops, the becomes more of a schwa or an I. It kind of depends. If I'm trying to make it clear, I'm going to say them or Adam, or Adam. If I don't need to be very clear and make a distinction between him and them. Yeah. So good observation that all of those can sound the same, depending on the speaker, in conversational speech, in fast speech, and with reductions. They don't have to, and they don't always. Okay, great. And then also you're asking about then and than. In conversational English, yes. I'd say rather than go, I'll see you then. If I'm stressing on it, I'll see you then. Then I'm going to have a clear sound, and this one would have a clear sound. But for conversational speech, they both tend to get a reduced vowel rather than, where again it's a syllabic N, not a lot of vowel there. So they can sound the same in conversation. Yes, that's a great observation. Thank you. Okay. We have a question about the word cookie and cook, whether or not they have the same vowel as book. And they do. All of these have the vowel. And I like to use the word could with these. Like I could have a cookie. I could cook that. Or the word good. It's a good book. She's a good cook. Or the word should. Sometimes having another word that doesn't have o can help you when it comes to pronouncing that sound. But you're correct. Cookie and cook have the vowel. Thank you for that question. Okay, we have a question about the word reassured. He reassured her that she was correct. Reassured. So we have the stress on the shurred syllable. In this case, we do have a little secondary stress probably on the re, because we do say a clear E vowel here for this re. In words like return or receive, that is unstressed and it has the I vowel rather than an E. But in reassured, we're using the re prefix to say we redid something, and then it retains its clear E sound. So we have reassured. So the ED just says D, so it sounds like reassured. Some people will use more reassured, a little bit of an oo sound here. Reassured, I reassured her. Because we can say sure or sure. But I use an reassured. I was reassured. She reassured him. Thank you. Okay, that was another good word. We have a question about the word exodus in American English. Yes, unfortunately being used a lot in Sudan because of the difficult situation there. So for exodus, first syllable stress, letter E says the sound. Letter X can make different sounds in English. In the word exodus, it has the k and s sounds. Our letter O is unstressed, so it's going to be a schwa, an sound, and then another schwa at the end. So think about it like It could also be an I here, exodus or exodus. Really, you can think about that last sound having very little vowel. It's very reduced, dus, exodus. Thank you for that request. Very good. If you've listed multiple requests, I will return to yours. I'm trying to make sure I answer at least one question from all of the viewers who are here live today. So hang in there. I'll come back to your question. I know a few of you asked more than one and I didn't answer your second question yet. Okay. We have a question about the word, I'll go back, let's see. So we have some that I missed. The word giggling. I think there's two options here for giggling. We have the word giggle, which sounds like giggle. So we can say giggling, making it 3 syllables. More likely, we're going to say giggling. Where this first g sound, I'm not going to say giggling. Okay, there are multiple different ways. So I can say gig, not release that J, and then that g sound and go right to the ling, giggling. Or I can do giggling, where I do a kind of a GL blend, giggling. That's probably the easiest one to do, so that's what I would recommend, giggling. Giggling is okay, but in general, when we can do 2 syllables, that's what native speakers will do. He was giggling a lot, giggling. Yeah, that's a funny word. Sounds funny when you say it a few different times, makes you want to kind of giggle. Okay, we have a question about the word squeamish. So squeamish. We have our E vowel and our I vowel here. Letter Q in squeamish says a qu sound. So we have squee, first syllable stress, squeamish. Sounds like squeamish. I was pretty squeamish about that. Yeah, that's another funny sounding word. Let's see. We have a question about the word curious. I do have a video for curious and curiosity. So this is an example where letter U says 2 sounds. It has the y sound. And again, some people will say curious with more of an oo for the U. I use an for the U, cure. So I would spell it like this. Build it from your to cure. Curious. Curious. The dictionary will show you that it has the gliding y, and they will either show an or an cure, plus an e and a schwa. Curious. I hope that if you are curious about that pronunciation, that it helps you. Curious. I guess I do a mix because just there I was saying a little bit more of an instead of a yer. Yes, sometimes there's more than one correct pronunciation for a word. Okay. We have a question about the word product. So in your question, you're probably wondering if we can say product instead of product in the US. And no, people don't do that here. We always use an ah sound. So British English might be product. Product. Actually, I don't think they do. I think they use an ah, product. So we use an ah. Product. So letter O is in words with PRO, sometimes an O, like in the word produce, the noun, we use an O. It can also sometimes be a schwa in the word produce, the verb. We say we say the pr sound, produce. In produce, that's where we do use an O, or produced. Most of the time, our PRO is going to be an ah when it's stressed. There's just a few words like protein or protest where it's an O sound. So I do have a video talking about the letters PRO and the different sounds they can make. And that's also something I cover in my American Accent 6-week course. Just one of those details that you basically have to learn which do which. And mostly when you're able to find the syllable stress, the differences between an ah and an but there are a few exceptions where we do say O. But product is not one of them. Hopefully that was your question. Let me know if I didn't answer it correctly. Okay, we have a question about the S sound after pronouncing H. So I'm not sure what word you mean after pronouncing the H. Maybe try to clear that up for me and give me a specific example of words that you're wondering about with an S following an H. I can't think of an example where we have an H sound at the end of a word. So yeah, I'm not sure what you're asking. Okay, sorry about that. Another question about words that sound the same. So write it versus ride it. These do sound the same in terms of they both have a flap. So we're gonna, for both of them, it'll sound like the rye sound and the dit, ride it. But they don't sound the same because when we say write it, write it, we make that vowel shorter. So the difference between write and ride, if I'm just saying them by themselves, is that write is going to be very short, ride is going to be longer. And so even though they link the same and they have the same sound, you should hear a difference between write it and ride it, that the vowel is going to be longer in ride it. Yeah, so that's kind of subtle, but it has to do with the difference between just those words, whether or not they're linked. So that's one example where they don't sound the same in fast speech. I'm going to write it tomorrow. I'm going to ride it tomorrow. Hopefully you could hear that difference. It's a little bit subtle, but it's pretty important. It's a pretty important distinction. Thank you, Desmond, for your support. I really appreciate your contribution for the channel. Okay. We have a question about the word touch screen, whether or not to pronounce the S. Let's check that out. So when I'm saying touch screen, I guess you can kind of get away with dropping that S. I don't necessarily want to have touch screen with a big break in between them. The ch sound at the end of touch has some noise like a s would, but I think you probably want to try to say both touch screen. The touch screen was dirty, touch screen. Because if I go right from the touch screen, it's going to sound a little bit odd, the touch screen. Yeah. I think you need the S, touch screen. It does kind of mush together a little bit there, but I don't think you can drop it, or it'll sound like it'll make your K sound different as well. If I say touch screen, my K sound has more aspiration. Touch screen, screen. The SK blend is something distinct there. That's a good observation, though. Definitely in fast speech, you don't want to have a lot of distinct sounds, or your speech is going to sound too choppy. But there's places where even if you can't perceive the sound, you need to sort of be going through the patterns of making it, or it'll sound unusual or different. Wonderful questions today. Okay, so the question was when we say H sound. So when I say H sound, H is really a CH sound. So touch screen, H sound, H sound, H sound. Yeah, basically same thing. I'm gonna have a little of the ch and then this H sound. There's an H sound. Yeah. Okay, so letter H at the end of a word like touch or H, we're looking at what is the ch sound plus this sound together. Yeah, okay, hopefully that answered both of your questions. And then following up with hit it versus hit it. I hit it over there. I hit it over there. Those two I would say do sound the same, even though the difference between hit and hid is in how long I hold the vowel. In this case, I hit it across the fence, I hit it over there. They are going to sound the same because that I vowel is short. It's just more clear in your right and ride. That I diphthong is longer. So we're going to hear that difference more. In these two, we won't really hear much of a difference. They're both going to kind of sound like hit it. Because our I vowel is held for a shorter time. Okay, good. Yes, so many good questions today. It's wonderful to see so many of you here live. Thank you for watching today's class, for attending live and asking your questions, and also for all of the requests and comments and suggestions for our Word of the Day series. I will be back tomorrow with another Word of the Day and every day this week and next week. And so if you have a request for that, you can leave it in a comment on this video or any of my videos. I have a nice long list I'm working my way through. I will be back again next week on Saturday with our live class, so feel free to attend. You can check out on our channel on the community page. I always post the upcoming classes, and you can also go to the home page for the channel, Speech Modification, and you'll see when I plan on being live next, and you can bookmark and get a reminder for those classes if you enjoyed today's class and you'd like to attend again. Thanks so much, everyone. It's nice to see all of you here, and I do truly appreciate your support. It's helping the channel to grow, and it's really fun answering your questions. Wonderful ideas and suggestions today. Thanks, everybody. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow in our Word of the Day, and of course, do check out our resources on speechmodification.com. We have lots of free practice materials there, as well as our online courses that can help you go a little bit more in depth and feel confident to pronounce any word you like confidently and easily in American English. That's on speechmodification.com. All right, everyone, thank you for a great class, and I appreciate you being here. I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com. Remember, if you want to sound like a native speaker, you can do it. speechmodification.com. Bye, everyone. Hope to see you again soon.